you very much. I'll get us back on time because I want to make sure we hear from our keynote speaker. One of the greatest privileges I had when I came to Congress, with Gabby Gifford, our guest speaker's wife. There is no greater sign of courage, character, than what you see with Gabby. What a great facility. I know what you all thought when you first said we'll go come to Mojave. You wondered how it's going to turn out. But it's sold out. Then when you pulled out this. Then when you pulled up, you saw the building. It was named properly after Stewart. But I want to give you a little talk. I know you don't look excited when you hear somebody that's here that serves in Washington, but I will tell you this, despite what you look on the outside, it is better. We're in a better place than we have been. Once we got the budget agreement done, we actually have our numbers for this year and next. We no longer have that pitfall, that uncertainty. We're able to prioritize where we're going to invest. And you know what? We did invest in aerospace. And when I came out here today, there's a lot of famous quotes about aerospace. But the most famous one, they really can't even tell you who said it. Many people talk that maybe it was Da Vinci, maybe it was somebody else, but many of you probably heard it. When you once have tested flight, you will forever walk the earth with your eyes towards skyward. For there you have been, and for there you will always long to return. That is the description of this aerospace valley. From Plant 42 to Ridgecrest. For the last 60 years, from that moment we broke the barrier, we tasted that flight for that one moment, we have never taken our eyes off the sky. You look around, our eyes just went further. And that is unique. That is something different than anybody else can have. And remember when you grow up and you go to a job interview or you're sitting around friends and you're asking each other questions like, if you could go back in time, where would you go? Or if you could meet somebody in history, who would you want to meet? And I've been asked that question many times, and they usually tell me 3 places you want to go back in time. And I will tell you, all through my life, my answers for the first 2 have always been the same. And the other night, a group of members, we were getting together because we don't have many other friends, so we hang together. And we were asking these questions, and one asked it upon me. He said, if you could go back to 3 places in time, where would you go? My first have always been the same, and it's based more on my faith. I would yearn to be in Israel in the time of Jesus. I want to be on the Sea of Galilee. I want to hear the Sermon on the Mount. I want to see him. I want to hear him. I want to feel that grace. The second place I always want to go is actually the same as well, and it's my love for the country. I want to be there during the creation of this country, of the founding fathers, the revolution. Because those people were put in place at a certain time for a reason. They were right out of central casting. And they did unbelievable things, not just the founding fathers, but everybody in it. And I would yearn to be able to be there. But when it came to the third answer, always in the past I talk about, I want to meet Da Vinci, or Einstein, or Edison. And I looked at my members and they looked at me and said, well, you didn't give a third. You can't find a place you want to go? I said, because there's no other place I want to be. I want to be right here, right now, and this time. They said, well, I don't understand that, Kevin. I said, because in the past I would say Da Vinci, I would say Einstein. But I'm watching him before my very eyes in my own district. I said, what are you talking about? You know what I talked about? Aerospace Valley. I talked about the moment that I sat on this runway watching the land for the X-Prize. I talked from the moment when I sit and talk to individuals that are about to go to space. I'm being able to be a part of that, and let's do that. We all are. I've watched the last 12 years of this airport and spaceport. Though I'm not sure of the number today, but at the time Stu told me there was 14 companies. Today there's more than 160, but it's been a week since he told me, so I'm sure it's probably up to 180. 3,000 jobs. But I'm watching the world change before our eyes right now. The next 100 years, they'll write about what happens in the next 10 years here. And there's many times we don't stop and realize that. I mean, this year, we don't get a lot of bills passed, but there's one that we actually did. You've watched what has grown throughout this valley. You watched who has been here before. Neil Armstrong served many years here as a test pilot. First man to land on the moon. And now we're going to rename NASA Neil Armstrong. I want you all to come out in May. That's a bipartisan bill. It was good to be able to go through and be able to get it re-signed. But the part of what this valley has seen and what this valley has grown, to me, is at a pivotal point. I have the trust in the men and women here that work. My fear is with government, like many of you. And we don't want to sit back. We want to make sure we do our part. So, we have introduced the SOARS Act that will help when we go into space. We've actually been able to fund greater than the crew funding in the last omnibus bill. We've been able to fund when it came to the military as well, making sure they don't have the sequestration one more time. That's stability. So when I come before you today, I think about the time and place of what we are. And I think about the time and place of where we serve. When I was driving in, today I became whip, I have to have these security people because not everybody likes members of Congress, especially if you're in leadership. But I talked to them about, do you know Mojave? And they've been here with me before because I have visited Mojave more than any other place in my district, regardless of where we've been. And I told them a little about the movie The Right Stuff because I thought maybe that would give you the corridor of what you can understand and what to see. And it goes beyond this area, and it goes beyond this country. It talks to all humans. But you remember in the movie The Right Stuff, where Ed Harris says, I just thank God I live in a country where the best and finest in a man can be brought out. And to me, that's what this is about. We still have the ability to allow us to unleash the intellectual, the PhD, the entrepreneur, or that young child that got that first taste of flight. That's the goal, and that's the mission. So I thank you for the opportunity to spend a few moments with you. I promised I'd get us back on schedule. It's an honor to serve.